You are in the rant wormhole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Andrew Soto, who says, rant about the widely accepted 3 meals a day versus eating whenever it suits you. What consequences could we expect if the reverse of this becomes true regarding store hours, types of food served, portion sizes, etc.? I think that the 3 meal a day formula, a lot of it has to do with just ease of gathering, so to speak. How do I put this? It's like, yes, eating whenever you want is probably, and when I say whenever you want, I mean like when is appropriate. Eat the amount that will sustain you. Eat things that are appropriate and do it at the times that you are hungry. I think that is a healthier way to live, a more, I mean, it's obvious. Like anything that is a rigid structure, um, is only there to make things easier. It's there to make it so you don't have to think as much or to make society function more cleanly. Because nothing about the human body and how it functions is rigidly structured. Though you can kind of train your body to have like a certain expectation of the way things are going to play out. But I think that in general, humans tend to get hungry about every 6 hours. We tend to be kind of hungry when we wake up. We tend to get hungry about 6 hours later, and then another 6 hours after that. It's not exact. But let's say that you are in a family unit, and you want to eat a cooked meal. Well, is everybody in the family going to be cooking all of their meals all day? Would it be easier for everybody to sit down at the table at the same time, for one person to cook the meal and supply it to everybody, which is kind of like the whole theory of civilization in a way. The idea that you don't have to hunt and gather your food because there is somebody who's farming it so everybody can have it. Those kind of structures are just there to keep the machine greased and keep everything moving. So I think that has more than anything to do with why we do 3 meals a day. It's not that we think it's healthy. It's not that we think it's like a more logical way to eat. It's just like, we grow up with it because by the time, like, I don't think there's a lot of 20-somethings who necessarily hold themselves to this, like unmarried or even just like couples who are like, oh, we're gonna eat exactly 3 meals a day at the exact times when it's normal. I mean, maybe if you are somebody who's sort of square and you've grown up with it and you just continue it because that's how you understand life to be, if you are someone who's very structured. But I think there's lots of people, I'm thinking like college students, artists, like people who don't really live that kind of rigid life, who just don't eat that way. Like they don't even have, maybe they don't have time, maybe it doesn't make sense with their lifestyle, or maybe they just munch on whatever whenever. I think it's more when you enter that state of having so much you have to keep track of in your life that making mealtime as simple and easy to orchestrate as possible becomes important. And of course, if you are a child who belongs to a family, then you're just going to eat when your parents give you food, so it perpetuates itself in that way. It becomes normal for that next generation. So do I think that this is something that would be easily changed? No. I think that it's something that naturally arises as a result of the way that society functions. And that even if you're somebody who wants to just eat whenever you want and live a healthier lifestyle, that just becomes way more difficult if you have other people to worry about. If you're trying to feed your kids and eat for yourself, are you going to cook them a separate meal from you when they're hungry, and then when you're hungry, you're going to be in the kitchen all fucking day, So that's why these structures are in place. Yeah, it would change everything if people just, if people didn't obey those structures. I mean, like, for instance, there's a lot of good reasons that humans tend towards being awake during the day as opposed to being awake at night. It's not cold. It's easier to see. These things mattered a lot in the hunter-gatherer days. There's no predators. But like, that structure remains in place even if it's no longer as necessary because of the fact that it just makes the most sense for everybody. We know that we need a certain amount of sleep per, every so many hours. Most people end up, again, kind of trained to sleep and wake at a certain time. For whatever reason, I've never been able to do that. Not once in my life have I gone to bed at the same time consistently, or gone to sleep rather, at the same time consistently night after night, or woken up consistently the next day. So for me, like, being up all night is pretty regular, and it sucks that nothing's really open. Um, but like, if you go somewhere like New York City, stuff is open 24 hours almost all the time because there are just so many people that there are enough of them who are like me that the city will serve those people. But like, that's like almost only in New York City because that's the only city that is that fucking dense that it can like sustain that, um, you know, all over the place. Like, I always thought that cities would be like that. Like, before I moved away from Virginia Beach, I assumed that any big city would have stuff open 24 hours. But it's mostly just on the highways. Like, mostly that exists for people who are making all night drives, especially truckers. So, like, I think that's because, again, it's easier to just participate in the system than to try and, get all crazy and experimental with it when there's other people involved. So that's what I have to say about it.